I'm John Cranton with JimFeist.com. We're going to take a look at the 2014 AFC North in the NFL. You know, the Ravens won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Then they had a rebuilding campaign last year going 8-8. The new AFC North power may be the young Cincinnati Bengals. We did have them a year ago to win the division, and they rolled to an 11-5 campaign while nobody else in this division had a winning record. We're going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Looks like a good bounce-back campaign. They may be capable of winning this division in 2014. Las Vegas has the Steelers projected at 9 wins. You know, after winning 10 games 6 times in 11 years, the Steelers are 8-8 in each of the last 2 years. In fact, last year they had to win their final 3 games to get to 500. They've been rebuilding on the fly with an aging roster, and injuries haven't helped. The emphasis has been on speed on both sides of the football the last 2 years, and they look pretty good overall. Now, they've been drafting offensive linemen a lot in recent years, and they think they finally have that problem licked. Last year, once Kelvin Beachum solidified that left tackle position, Ben Roethlisberger was sacked just 11 times over the final 8 games. Steelers offense last year, 12th in the NFL in passing, 28th in rushing the football. Roethlisberger was very good, 28 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. This is an elite passing game. Wide receiver Antonio Brown was just a monster last year, 1,499 yards receiving. They still have veteran tight end Heath Miller as a top target, 593 yards. And they add wide receiver Lance Moore from the Saints. He had 457 yards. They have running back Le'Veon Bell from Michigan State. He had 860 yards last year, just 3.5 yards per carry, but he is a workhorse. And the Steelers add LeGarrette Blount. Now, the previous 4 years, they've used 4 first or second round draft picks on the offensive line. They finally appear to have that situation in pretty good hands. And the Steeler defense last year was very good, 9th in the NFL against the pass, 21st against the run. They got first round pick linebacker Ryan Shazier. They figure he's going to team up with linebacker Lawrence Timmons, is one of the NFL's most dynamic linebacker tandems this season. The Steelers also like second-round defensive end Stephen Tuitt. He might have been a top 10 draft pick if not for a hernia injury last season. You got Mike Mitchell starting at free safety after reviving his career in Carolina a year ago. The Steelers' schedule, after opening up at home against Cleveland, Pittsburgh plays 4 of 5 games on the road. Overall, though, it's really not a bad schedule. The Steelers, remember, they had finished the season last year playing great. They're on a 6-2 run, straight up 7-1 against the spread. They really should contend for this division. Finally, the 6 Cincinnati Bengals, going to look at them for second place. They are also projected at 9 wins by Las Vegas. Bengals off a terrific campaign, 11-5 straight up, 10-5-1 against the spread. Look at the win totals for Cincinnati the last 3 years, 9, 10, and 11. They have been an emerging young power, at least in the regular season, though. Some of the weak spots for the Bengals. Last year they were 8-0 at home, but boy, 3-5 on the road, and many playoff flameouts the last couple of years, which makes you question the competency of the coaching staff. Now, one of their few non-covers last year, that was the playoff game. They were a 6.5-point favorite to the Chargers. They lost 27-10 at home. They have a very deep defensive team and an improving offense that does prefer ball control, still kind of a conservative offense. They were 8th in the NFL in passing, 18th in rushing with quarterback Andy Dalton. He had 33 touchdowns last year, but 20 interceptions. A little bit of an improvement in the sack department. He only had 29 sacks last year, 46 2 years ago. But boy, the 20 interceptions he had last year, that's not a very good number, especially when you consider all the talent surrounding him. He probably should have been better. And they may have some different looks on offense under new offensive coordinator Hugh Jackson. He was a former running backs coach. On the other hand, he's been with an assistant with this program for the last 13 years. The Bengals like running back Jeremy Hill, the team's second-round draft pick from LSU, and they still have running back Giovanni Bernardi at 695 yards. And, of course, wide receiver A.J. Green is a monster talent. 2 years ago, 1,350 yards receiving. Last year, 1,426. And they have 24-year-old wide receiver Marvin Jones. He had 712 yards. Those are great targets, along with tight end Jermaine Grisham, who had 458 yards. On the downside for the Bengals, their road play was terrible. 3-5 straight up, 2-5-1 against the spread. And their last 3 years, their playoff appearances have been awful. They've scored 13, 10, and 10 points in those playoff games. The common theme, they lost all 3. Bengals defense, armed to the teeth. Last 3 years, they've been ranked 7th, 6th, and 3rd in total defense. Last year, they ranked 5th against the pass and the run, and they should be very, very strong again. Defensive ends Carlos Dunlap and Wallace Gilbert each had 7.5 sacks. You got a linebacker, Ray Maluga, and Vontez Burfict leading the way. They really should be better with the return of linebacker Emmanuel Lamar. He's the best cover linebacker, and he was lost a year ago in preseason. Cornerback Leon Hall is also back after an Achilles injury, and the secondary adds depth with Michigan State cornerback Darquez Dennard. He was the 24th overall selection. Last year, the Bengals were 10-6 over the total during the regular season. Might take a step back, though, with what should be a conservative offense, but a dominant defense. Finally, the Bengals' schedule. Boy, they play 5 of their final 7 games on the road. That includes a 3-game road trip from November 16th to 30th. They'll be playing the Saints, Texans, and Bucks. Plus, they have other tough road games at the Patriots and at the Colts, so they may take a little bit of a step back. Third place, we're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens. Vegas has them at 8.5 wins. Now, the rebuilding Ravens are off a 500 campaign, 8-8 straight up, 7-8-1 against the spread. One thing you say about Baltimore is that they rely on home field dominance. That's been the case for over a decade. Last year was no exception. 6-2 at home. In fact, the last 3 years, 20-4 straight up record at home, 20-14 on the road. And the Ravens last year on the road, 2-6 straight up, 2-5-1 against the spread. The Baltimore offense last year, not very good, 18th in the NFL in passing, 30th in rushing the football. They still have 29-year-old quarterback Joe Flacco off a down campaign with 19 touchdowns, 22 interceptions, just over 3,900 yards passing. It should be better with speedy wide receiver Torrey Smith. He really stepped up with 1,128 yards. But tight end Dennis Pittine, he was never healthy and had just 169 yards. And the passing offense gets older by adding 13-year veteran wide receiver Steve Smith. Running back Ray Rice, boy, he had just 3.1 yards per carry. A terrible offseason to go along with his terrible season. The Ravens' defense last year, 12th in the NFL in total yards, 12th against the pass, 11th against the run. The Ravens signed their number 17th overall pick. That was Alabama star linebacker C.J. Mosley. He's going to join an elite Ravens linebacking core alongside Elvis Dumerville. He had 9.5 sacks, and Terrell Suggs with 10 sacks. Plus, up front, you got nose tackle, Pro Bowl nose tackle Haloti Nada, and defensive end Chris Canty. This is really an elite defense overall. Ed Reed in the secondary is coming off 2 terrible seasons. They helped to rely more on hard-hitting safety Matt Elam 2 years ago. He was taken with a 32nd overall pick, 54 tackles, 1 pick last year. Schedule, they're going to open the season, Baltimore is, with 3 straight division games against the Bengals, Steelers, and the Browns. They're also going to play 5 of 7 games on the road starting September 21st in week 3. The bye week is a plus coming in week 11. Then they got the Saints on Monday night. That's a road game and a tough one. Overall, they have a tough defense in a very physical division. Could be a team to look at under the total again. That was the case at home last year when they were 5-3 under the total. Finally, got to look at the Cleveland Browns in last place. Vegas has them projected at 6.5 wins. They're off a train wreck 4-12 season that cost the one-year head coach his job. They were 3-5 at home, 1-7 on the road. Surprisingly, Cleveland started 3-2 last year with a very good defense, and they found the quarterback position, but boy, did they fall apart. 1-10 straight up, 3-8 against the spread to end the season. So you got former Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator Mike Pettine. He steps in as the new coach. Doesn't inherit a very good defense. Offense last year may surprise you. They were 11th in the NFL in passing, but no running game, 27th in rushing. Cleveland thinks they found a quarterback in 28-year-old Brian Hoyer. He had 5 touchdowns and 3 picks, actually led them to a 3-0 run before blowing out his knee early on in the year. He's a former Tom Brady backup, and he's probably going to be the best option. Got to believe Johnny Manziel, who's in camp, is going to be a backup. You'll see more of him probably in preseason, but it's really Brian Hoyer's game to lose. They're better off starting him. And what a great wide receiver they have in 23-year-old Josh Gordon as a rookie out of Baylor. He had 805 yards. But boy, second-year player last year, did this kid explode? 1,646 yards, receiving 18.9 yards per catch, a dynamite weapon. Cleveland Browns have offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan, and of course Manziel And Nate Burleson is a new wide receiver that they signed to a one-year contract. The offensive line, they should be better rushing the football because they've got left tackle Joe Thomas and center Alex Mack were very dominant. And you've got a defense that, boy, did they make huge strides last season. 8th in the NFL against the pass, 18th against the run. They added linebackers Paul Kruger and Quentin Groves last year, and they paid terrific dividends. They still have former LSU defensive end Barkevius Mingo. He was the number 6 pick overall. One loss, though, was linebacker Daquell Jackson. He moved on to the Colts. But the secondary for Cleveland is outstanding with cornerback Joe Hayden. He led the NFL with 64 passes defended since 2010. And they had some depth with the number 8 overall pick. That was cornerback Justin Gilbert out of Oklahoma State. Overall, this team is probably going to be worth a look at under the total with a very good defense. And actually, that's been the case the last 3 years. How about the Browns? 31-15-1 under the total the last 3 years. That'll do it for this preview. Make sure you check out JimFeist.com for more college football season previews and NFL 2014 season previews.